Imagine this situation. I know every single one of us have been through it. You're sweating, your back is getting tense, you're emailing back and forth with your advisor and professors on why you want to take their course. You keep adding to your wait list. Trying to find courses can be stressful because of Trinity University's pathway requirements. It is hard for students to find their passion when their main focus is to fulfill their requirements, and it's hard for some students to graduate on time with such restrictions. Trinity University should create a more flexible process for the pathway requirements to reduce the stress, find their passions, and increase the well-being of the student as a whole. Today, I will make this case to you by first discussing the issues that arise from the pathway requirements. I will also discuss the consequences of not graduating on time and not allowing students to explore their passions and interests. Next, I'll provide a solution to this issue and address any reputations. Let's begin with discussing the issues with the pathway requirements. The pathway requirements have a lot of specific topics that you have to take courses from. The issue with the specific topics is that there are very limited courses that can fit those requirements. Therefore, it is difficult to get into some courses due to the high demand of students trying to get into this course. I'm sure Professor Rothenbaum can really test this come registration time when he probably receives a ton of emails because of how flexible public speaking is. Public speaking fits these two categories, and it just happens to be that they are allowed to be double dipped, but that's not like all courses. And also, I this class is great to take even if you're not required to take it. According to niche.com, only about 50% of students agreed that it is easy to get into courses. For a private school, that percentage should really be higher. This is not the case for most of the courses, however. For instance, if I took communicating with small groups and teams for this course, it would count for my professionalism interdisciplinary requirement, but not my approaches requirement. Even though it's listed under both the categories, it's just the double dipping rule that it won't count for both of them. The many restrictive requirements can be a detriment to students and professors. A lot of students take courses because they have to, not because they want to. The student will not care about the course that they are not interested about. I interviewed an anonymous source about how they feel about taking courses they are disinterested in and required to take. They said, "Yeah, I have to go to this class I don't care about. I'm literally learning nothing. This is torture." If you have students that do not care about the course, it can also be difficult for the professor to teach. Wouldn't it be in the best interest of the professor and student if there was better flexibility with courses? So if a student actually wants to take a course, they can. Additionally, the many requirements can make it difficult to graduate on time. If not carefully planned out, students can get into a real crunch when it is their last year and they need specific courses that might not be even offered that year or semester. The consequences of not graduating in time are having to pay for an extra semester, which no one really wants to do. The requirements also restrict students from exploring their passions. College is a place for students to find what they want to do. It is hard for students to explore their own interests when they're only focused on meeting the requirements. The bottom line is yes, as a part of a liberal arts education, it is to have a wide variety of education. However, when it comes to be too restrictive, a student is not really getting that wide variety education when they're disinterested and unwilling to learn. Now that we established the pathway requirements have flaws, let's discuss a solution. In theory, pathway requirements can be useful to students if money and graduating on time were not a huge issue. However, these factors are a concern for all students. This is why Trinity should implement a process where courses should count for at least two pathway requirements without any double dipping rules. The extra hours that would be spent on the pathway requirements can be used for free elective hours. For example, as you can see on this slide here, it would be a redistribution of the hours. Say if to simplify the pathways, the requirement would be 9 hours total, including free electives. It would just be more free electives and then less pathway requirement hours. Trinity should also remove the rule of some courses not being able to be double dipped to provide greater flexibility. Therefore, with courses counting for at least two requirements, the double dip rule should not apply. Students will still be getting that wide variety education. However, with the greater flexibility, students can explore their interest. The average cost of a semester at Trinity University is about $20,000. With these solutions, students do not have to take an extra semester and pay that sum of money. This may not work in Trinity University's favor because of the decreased money from students not taking an extra semester. However, the well-being of students will increase and might even result in students having a greater appreciation for Trinity University that they might even want to give back when they become alumni. With this solution, students can really find their passions and explore their interests. This will help with students finding their major and really be excited to learn every day. This solution is a perfect solution from the student's perspective. However, Trinity University's perspective differs. According to Trinity University's website, they've implemented the pathway requirements for a reason. They stated this: through these requirements, students acquire the necessary skills and disciplinary perspectives to navigate complex questions at Trinity and their postgraduate lives. Additionally, Trinity University is a liberal arts school. Trinity states this about a liberal arts education: fundamentally committed to ensuring that all Trinity undergraduate degrees represent the broad base of general learning with an underlying commitment to responsible participation in human affairs, which is called a liberal education. Trinity University wants their students to graduate with a well-rounded education, which they believe will be accomplished by pathways. I agree that students came to Trinity for the liberal arts education, but wouldn't that student become even more well-rounded and multidimensional if one course can fulfill multiple pathways? If that course is more well-rounded? If a student is forced to take a course that they are disinterested in, they do not want to learn. They simply just want to get a good grade in the course. They will not retain the information and become that well-rounded student that Trinity believes the pathways will provide. With this, a student will care much more about a course that they want to be in. I think this really creates that well-rounded student and education. As our fellow classmate Kevin said in my outline, I will also note that if I take an extra semester, there is not a chance in hell I'm donating a dime to Trinity after I graduate. Changes to the pathway requirements is something that will really benefit the students of Trinity University. These changes will also benefit Trinity University with the increased flexibility. There can be a potential increase in the number of students pursuing research, securing donors, and many others. In conclusion, the importance of the well-being of students should be a high priority and will not only benefit the student, but also Trinity University. Pathway requirements can cause stress, money, and disinterest due to the restrictive nature. For these issues, Trinity should modify the pathway requirements as a whole and create a greater flexibility for students. I am sure that a lot of you struggle to get into those popular courses that fulfill pathway requirements. As you are writing that email to the professor to get into the course that you do not want to even be in, come registration, think for a minute and ask yourself the true importance of the restrictive nature of the pathway requirements. Thank you.